As you may know, I recently picked up this S13 parts shell because I really need a quarter panel for my 240 build. The first one I picked up was rusty. The second one I picked up was full of Bondo, and now this is the third time. Third time's the charm, right? Today what I'm gonna do is start drilling out all of the spot welds to take this thing off of this car. Hopefully this panel is okay underneath all this paint, but honestly, just by looking at it, it looks perfect. I'm mainly going to be using these two tools, the drill and a wire wheel. So the very first thing I like to do when taking off a panel is grind all of the adhesive off. So as you can see here, these spot welds are visible, but there are also spot welds beneath this rubber. So I'm going to need to grind all of that off. Same thing along the edges on the rear, the side here, and the bottom, and the door jamb as well. And this S13 was actually hidden in a forest. I'll attach that video so you guys can see how we got this car. And before you guys think I'm cutting up a nice clean car, this car was actually in a really bad accident, and it smushed everything back to the point where it creased the roof line. The door that was on here, it didn't even close all the way. It overlapped about ½ an inch on the quarter panel. So yeah, this thing was absolutely destroyed. It's very unfortunate. It was a pretty decent looking car. We're making great progress. I have everything on top exposed. I even got this little channel in here. It's not the easiest spot to get to, so I just got it to the point where I can see them. It's not exactly grinded down to bare metal. Like for example, this part, you can see this all nice and clearly all the way through. I'm gonna need to jack the car up because I need to take off the wheel and get to the wheel arch here. There's also a few spot welds that are on the bottom. They run along right here. Oh, this is kind of bent right here. I'm gonna have to try and hammer this pinch weld back too, because it's probably blocking those spot welds the way it is now. Thank God these quarter panels are not rolled, so there's still this nice lip that goes all the way across. Because when they're rolled and folded up, it's very hard to drill out the spot welds like that and try and unroll them. Another thing that's looking good is no rust whatsoever. Holy crap, I just realized this because this is my first time taking off the wheel. This man was driving on no brake pads and grinded down the caliper. Look at that, man. Oh my gosh. Have you guys seen this happen before? Especially on a 240? Just a quick friendly reminder for you guys, this is not a jack point on a S chassis. The pinch welds are not designed to hold that weight, but I did get it straight enough, so back to the grinder. I think this is actually the last spot I need to grind. Then I can start drilling out all the spot welds. At this point, I've grinded off all the paint along the spot welds, and you can see them very clearly. Now I have the drill out, and before I start using my spot weld drill bit, I have a smaller bit that I'm going to use to drill a pilot hole in each spot weld. You're probably wondering why that is. That is because I cannot just put the spot weld drill bit directly on a spot weld, because it'll just walk around and that'll actually prematurely cause these teeth to crack off. So if you have the pilot hole drilled, this little stud sits in there very nicely. I know I kind of go over this in a lot of my videos, but in case this is someone's first time watching, I just want it to make sense. I've tried using a punch, and as you can see, this one's punched right now. It'll hold it, but as soon as the teeth catch the metal, it'll start to walk off right away. And that's exactly why I drill a pilot hole every time. So I have to go over each spot weld twice. And there's over 100. As you can see, all of these are drilled out. Just the pilot hole, not the actual spot weld itself. I think I drilled all of them out. And I say I think I got all of them out because there's always one or two stragglers that always hang up the entire quarter panel. We are ready to switch over to the spot weld drill bit. Start drilling these bad boys out. I have finally drilled out all of the spot welds along the car. There is one more thing left to do, because even with the spot welds drilled out, you still cannot get the panel off. You have to make a cut along this roof line. Now that we have this nice cut line on the roof, I can start to pry back the top of the quarter panel, and you can see it start to move. It's a good sign. I'm just making sure all these spot welds are free. I'm gonna stick a little screwdriver in here. Those are free. Oh, that's free. It's free. This is already separated, but it's still free. Man, honestly, this car was in pretty good condition. There is some surface rust down here, but that's pretty common amongst all of these. Oh my gosh. The sound deadening in there. I've never seen this plastic bag that nice looking, although I just crunched it. Oops. Oh, there's some rust going on down here. Not too bad though. Let's check out the quarter panel. This is what we actually care about. This came off perfectly. All right, I'm not seeing any indications of body damage or body work or body filler, so that's great news. There is some surface rust going on down here, but honestly that is not bad at all. Even along the wheel arch it looks fine, although there is a little rust spot here, but I think that's just attached to this rubber seal, so that'll just come off no problem. And a little bit of surface rust here, but that's literally just coming off with my finger. So I think we are good to go. Oh, I'm so excited. This is the last piece of the puzzle to my car. Whew, man, I'm so hyped. I think I might come back and grab this wheel well, because if you guys remember the one that I have already, it is a little bit too rusted on the bottom here. It's just completely missing. Same with the front area as well. If I have a nice one that doesn't have rust, I would much rather use that. I don't know what it is about these cars, but they always start to surface rust right here. I bet in another 10 years, that's going to be a big problem with these, is that the C-pillars are going to rust out. This is the third one now that I've seen with the C-pillar rusting there. And this isn't even a rusty car, and my car wasn't a rusty car. They probably just didn't have good enough sealant from the factory to like keep the moisture out. And for anyone who is curious, there is exactly 154 spot welds to drill out on the quarter panel. Yes, I did just count that. And I got here around 12 o'clock and it's about 7 o'clock now. So it actually took me 7 hours to take off this quarter panel. But I can't leave the car looking like this. It's not my house. Much better. Now we need to load this into the work truck. Should fit, no issues. Seeing as though we just went to Tennessee to grab one. If it fits, it ships. Here's that Bondo quarter panel that I was talking about, if you haven't seen this already. Now we have this nice fresh one with no body filler and no damage that I can see. And this is also the very first quarter panel that was not cut too short. The other two were cut too short by whoever previously cut them, as you can see here. But I wanted to show you guys the wheel well situation that I'm working with. This is the wheel well that came off the car. As you can see, it is cut in half, so that's not gonna work. And this is the wheel well that came off of that rusty quarter panel, the white one. As you can see here on the bottom, it's not looking too good. And we are back at Omar's. Got the tools out, and now I'm looking at what I need to drill out next. And this is going to be a lot easier because I'm not going to need to wire wheel all the paint off, because all these spot welds are very easy to see. What I'm going to start drilling is everything along the wheel well. I don't want to take this piece because I already have a good one that has no rust on it, which is weird because the rusty quarter panel that I had, the backing plate had no rust on it. Doesn't make sense. But hey, I'll take it. I have just drilled out all the initial pilot holes. I say initial because you have to drill out more once you take off this first layer, because as you can see, this panel is on top of the wheel well, so there's actually more spot welds hidden behind it. I ended up having to drill the spot welds all the way along this rocker panel here as well. And I wanted to mention this because mine was out of place. I've always wondered what the factory sunroof drain looked like, and this one has it. Goes in here, comes down through this little piece, and snakes around straight into the rocker panel. Which kind of makes sense why 240s always rust out right around here. It's just receiving all of that extra moisture. I didn't even know there was a clip here for this. So I thought this was very interesting. There are only 4 spot welds from here to here on the rocker panel. There's not even a spot weld on this end piece. You would think there would be, but no, it's already loose. And then from here all the way to the door jamb, none. These cars are tin cans. Before I cut it, I wanted to take off the seatbelt retractor because I know that there's people out there that could probably use this piece. So if you need this, let me know. Come get it. Just finished drilling. Let's check and make sure everything is loosened up. Oh yeah. Oh, it looks like this one's catching actually. Nice. Let me free this one up. There we go. Okay, so now it is entirely free on the bottom half at least. So now I can make my cut. The car looks so crazy without a quarter panel on it. If anyone needs this, please let me know. Now that we have the inner structure off, we can finally see the remaining spot welds in here. So there's one here, one here. The spot welds that I have already drilled need to be drilled a little deeper because they're the same spot welds that hold it onto the rear section. The whole wheel well actually splits in half, which is kind of crazy. The only thing that's left is a couple spot welds on the inside of the rocker panel, which I do not plan on taking off this rocker panel. What I plan on doing instead is cutting along the bottom here because that'll be easier to weld directly onto my car. Basically, all I need to do now is rip off this wheel well because there's so much seam seal around here that it's only being held on by glue. Oh, it's already pretty loose. Oh, it's so satisfying. All right, I need to make my cut. So now that we have the wheel well off, I thought that was really all I was gonna grab from this car, but I just remembered, and I wonder if you guys caught this as well. The inner panel, which is like the inner wheel well piece here, on my car is spliced in right here. There's a cut line that goes all the way down from here to here. There's a weld that goes from here all the way down. And if I have this one piece right here with no rust on it, I'm thinking maybe I can try and take this off. I've never taken this panel off, so I'm not sure how to do that. But I think having this panel would really help clean up the chassis overall. And it also has this threaded hole here, which if you guys remember, I made a roof jig that connects this hole to the shock mounts to the roof. So I could even bolt in this new piece to my chassis and know for a fact that it'll be in the correct position, which would really make test fitting everything else go a lot smoother. So it seems like all this information is adding up to the point where I should just try and do this. Well, I guess I'll jack it up. I wonder how much this car is gonna flex now. I'm sure a lot of you guys have these spline drive lug nuts or have come across them. And it's common that people lose the key for it, which fits on there very nicely. But if that ever happens to you, you can use a 17mm 6-point, and it works just fine. With me just looking at this panel from the inside, I cannot see any spot welds, but I do have a couple ideas of where some may be. For example, I can see some indents down here, and my guess is the spot welds will continue along this seam all the way up and around the shock tower. Oh, that goes up higher. So maybe it'll cut off and go around here. Oh yeah, there's one right there. So looking at it from the inside, I don't think they're going to be accessible because we have adhesive in here. I was thinking about drilling out the spot welds that hold on this, we'll call it the shock tower reinforcement. But honestly, I might just drill out the spot welds to here, or maybe on the bottom, because if this is already intact, I might as well keep it on there, you know, doesn't hurt. Plus that's just one more thing that I can use to align this new piece onto my car. because I'll have the exact same spot weld holes on my car when I drill mine out. I know I do a lot of talking, but I'm just trying to express my thought process on how I go about doing things so that maybe it'll inspire you guys to tackle your own projects. All it is thinking about different angles and the best way to approach things. My very first step is going to be grinding off the adhesive on the inside here. So you can kind of see, they're actually a lot harder to see in here. It starts here and it goes up towards the inside, along the shock tower, the top of the shock tower, down the shock tower, and along the bottom here. Surprisingly, I didn't see any spot welds that were along the floorboard. So this is kind of where the floorboard would be, and right on the other side, there's no spot welds. There is one here, but I don't think that goes to the floorboard, which is kind of strange. And I also grinded away the adhesive that takes off the shock tower cap, just so I can remind myself not to grind these off. And another very important thing to pay attention to is the spot welds along this line, like picture this as a straight line, are the spot welds to the shock tower reinforcement. Now there are more spot welds on the inside here, and these are the ones we want to drill out because these attach the wheel well to the shock tower itself. Notice how this line is not on this side. That is because the shock tower reinforcement does not go along the rear of the wheel well, only the front. It's just important to look over everything before you start drilling away. Then you cause yourself more work in the long run. You know what I mean? I went ahead and drilled some pilot holes along all these spot welds, but I could not access this one because the fitment was so weak on whatever wheels they were running that it rubbed right here and folded over this lip. So we're gonna need to use some persuasion to bring that lip back where it belongs. I have that last pilot hole drilled out, but I also went ahead and drilled the pilot holes for the shock tower reinforcement. Here, 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 and here. And after looking at this for a while, I realized that these two overlap. What I mean by that is it has the shock tower reinforcement and the shock tower. So it's technically 3 layers within these 2 spot welds. Guess we'll start drilling. All the spot welds are drilled out, including the shock tower reinforcement piece. So everything is nice and free, but this is not budging at all. What I think I'm gonna have to do is grab the wire wheel and grind away all of the adhesive along the seams here on the shock tower, because there's like some adhesive keeping that together. And then also along the floorboard to the wheel well on the inside. So I really think this glue is what's holding it up right now. I mean, you can see how thick this is. Well, it looks like that ended up working. These panels are starting to free up, but I did just notice on this side that there are 2 tack welds, one right there and one right there. Those are the first 2 tack welds I've seen on this car that were not spot welded. And it's weird to me that they only did 2, just right there. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement for stiffening this chassis up. Now this inner wheel well is completely free from the car. I do have to make a cut along the front section because this panel wraps around and goes into the rocker. I'm thinking I might honestly just cut it right here. There's just a lip on the inside that folds in, and I can always just weld that piece back on. Wow, there's really nothing left of this left side of the car. Holy crap, that looks insane. I wonder how the car will act if I put it back on the ground. Will this shock tower fold in, do you think? It's pretty thick. It might be good just for rolling around. It's so crazy how these cars are constructed. All that seam sealer absorbing all the moisture and causing rust. There's got to be a better alternative to using the seam sealer. It looks slammed, but like, how? Because there's no panel for you to see how low it is. It's not even flexing. It is pretty exciting to know that I have all the parts that I need for the car now. So now it's just a matter of getting in the garage and doing it. Parts have been delivered to the garage, and my very next steps are going to be removing that inner panel that I just removed from that parts car. This is that weld line that I was talking about. And this is also where I made my cut for that outer panel. We're just ready to rock in here. I can't wait. Don't forget to drop a like in the video and make sure you're still subscribed. I heard that random people are getting unsubscribed randomly. So just make sure you're not a culprit of that. Thank you guys for hanging out. More to come soon because I am very eager to put this quarter panel on.